The man made in heaven, young crown king against the dragon of Dojima, Hajime Ippos demon, Carlos vs Sawamura, known for lightning fast punches, sly moves, and being monsters. So let's just begin. Carlos Rivera is the edit man of Ashita No Joes. If you want an edit, you choose him, because he's that incredible. Nicknamed the uncrowned king or emperor, for how the world champion had a gaping arsehole instead of fighting him. That's for later, guys.
He's a pussy.
Point being, Mr. Rivera is a legend in his own regard. Lightning fast punches, sly maneuvers, and the overall ability to touch heaven itself. So let's talk about Carlos's strength. His natural ability is genuinely insane. His natural talent probably outmatches characters like Hawk from Hajime no Ippo, as he is simply gifted. There is a reason he managed to get that far. His combat IQ is incredible, as we see in the Joe fight, whether you consider the anime or the manga.
I'm Mr. White Christmas.
Carlos constantly adapts to Joe's own adaptations, including blunting the force of the cross counter. And then there's that super weapon, arguably Carlos's biggest move and the thing that can decide the entire fight, as both of them do punch fast, but Carlos is faster. This technique's explanation is that Carlos is clenching all his muscles at once and punching, which sounds like something you'd hear in Baki, but listen, it's Carlos, which unleashes an insanely fast punch that even the human eye can't see, and even in a replay it's barely visible. It's a punch that only exists for a millisecond and it's gone. It is unpredictable and guaranteed to land no matter what. It's a punch crafted to defeat the world champion. Literal stardust made in heaven. It's the biggest weapon in an arsenal of big weapons that could decide this fight. Now yes, this is anime only, but I literally don't care. My slight issue for this punch is it drains Carlos's penis, leaving him exhausted.
Stop!
Stamina heavily, leaving him exhausted, which will leave him in a vulnerable state. Outside of that super weapon, Carlos is just insanely fast. He can practically disappear in front of you and appear in front of you, executing you before you realize the bell had even rang, just like most of Carlos's Japanese victims. Now, alongside all those little moves, Carlos is a sly boy in regards to his files, such as this. A punch and an elbow simultaneously, which knocked Hajime out cold, looking like he had the 1,000-yard stare, and in the manga, that man did not wake up for a long time. Carlos uses many tricks with his files. More specifically in the anime, it is the elbow trick, which essentially doubles the damage of a blow, capable of knocking out multiple boxers, including the Japanese champion Taiga Ozaki, who is now resting in piss, thankfully. But the specialty about this is how subtle they are. Carlos is so subtle with these moves that people don't even realize they've occurred, especially not the people who have been hit by them. Carlos is really tough, too tough for his own good, but he's extremely tough, managing to survive deadly and devastating punches from Joe that launched him into the sky. So it's hard not to imagine that Carlos can't eat a thunderbolt. Now guys, as we all know, Carlos was the uncrowned king, and a big key factor that I have to include is that prime healthy Carlos is the world champion. I'm sorry, but I don't think it's a debate. I don't think Jose Mendoza beats anime Carlos, and even if he does, it's his toughest fight ever, and this is what happens to Jose after the fight. Carlos is the world champion that didn't get his title because Jose Mendoza was scared of receiving a load inside his asshole.
Lock him up! Put him in fucking prison!
And he also looks like a balding penguin. I love Jose, but he's a bit of a fraud, man. Sawamura, before he cosplayed as Dojima from Persona 4, was a pretty good boxer. Sawamura is Hajime no Ippo's biggest psychopath, give or take. There are two more boxers who could take that title, but I'm giving it to Sawamura. Despite that insanity, however, Sawamura is easily one of the best boxers in his weight class, pushing Ippo to the brink. And the only reason he didn't even beat Ippo was because he was too busy not ending the fight.
He's a
It doesn't come as a surprise when I say the most dangerous thing about Sawamura is his counters, which can occur with his left, but we refer to the Thunderbolt. Quite the name, and a counter that cannot be understated in how powerful it is, which is dangerous as Carlos is the more offensively inclined boxer. But it's not just those counters, it's Sawamura's ability with them. Unlike a certain plot armor merchant, Sawamura fights like a real man, having the ability to literally do subconscious counters while getting punched because of his complete situal awareness of the ring. Meaning if Carlos starts taking this fight easily, Sawamura could start countering him while not even knowing he's there, which will do insane damage. Not to mention, they are insanely raw and could force Carlos into nuclear exchanges. Would he fall for that?
Fuck no, baby!
Obviously, he has the bullet, which is his jab. A jab that basically instantly lands and is instantly retracted. I wouldn't say it's as fast as Carlos's jabs, but it's still very, very fast, and you have to be very locked in to dodge. And not to mention, Sawamura's eyesight is insane. Yes, he was able to track Ippo's movement in the Dempsey roll, but most people can do that now. He was able to understand the flicker after only seeing it briefly. I don't see that helping against Edit Man though. Sawamura does also have a good level of defense, including his weaves and dodges, incorporating the neck spin into his arsenal, which allows him to smother a punch. But once more, like Carlos, Sawamura loves his fouls. His fouls aren't subtle, and sometimes they get him disqualified, which is important for later. Sawamura's fouls, first and foremost, can screw him over in terms of decisions, because at some point he'll get 2 points deducted from this fight for throwing an elbow, a shin kick, hitting a downed opponent. I mean, if you name it, Sawamura will probably do it. Which means despite the fact a foul can shift the situation, it can be costly too. However, in credit to Sawamura, these fouls can be subtle, especially in the Mashiba fight where he did a cheating ass combo. And the ref didn't even realize, though I don't know if that's because Sawamura is a genius or the ref's an idiot. So there is a chance that these fouls could be effective to level the playing field, as I don't think he is on Carlos' level, but that's for later. Sawamura is certainly one tough cookie, and I don't refer to the fact that he survived Ippos violating him. I refer to the fact that Mashiba tried to force him through the ground and he lived. That level of toughness is insane in its own regard. And in terms of advantages and disadvantages, I don't think it's crazy to say that Carlos' jabs are faster than the Sawamura. Like, if Sawamura's bullet is a bullet, Carlos's is a faster bullet. Whatever. I couldn't think of an analogy, okay? Carlos's super weapon is way too fast for Sawamura to handle. There's a reason it was created for the world champion. It's way too fast against counters, which is Sawamura's main gimmick. Now, I do understand you could argue that since Sawamura was able to track Ippos' movements in the anti-Dempsey, he can. Well, that's complete bullshit.
You're not just wrong, you're stupid. And you're ugly, just like your mum.
As the camera can barely see Carlos's fist, and even if by miracle Sawamura knows what's going on, he's still gonna eat those punches. Carlos was a world-ranked boxer who had the other world rankers scared of fighting him. Sawamura's peak is the Mashiba fight. Now, clearly both of those men were world title material, but this was national level. We are in Carlos's domain. Now, in terms of opponents, it's hard to talk about, as Sawamura fought Ippos, Mashiba, but Carlos's opponents are hard to know. Fraud doesn't count, guys. What we do know is that world rankers were shit scared of him, and he easily destroyed the Japanese champion Taiga Ozaki. There's no reason to assume that Carlos does not have a better catalogue of opponents. Those subconscious counters Sawamura can pull off can be very dangerous if he's able to keep up a whirlwind like that. It's more likely that Carlos would see that punch coming even if it was from a blind spot. But it's a significant thing that Carlos was the king who never got his crown. We've done it in the previous ones too. If they're in the same weight classes, Sawamura might be able to sneak a win out. Sawamura can't drop weight. If he does, Carlos wins. It's catch weight. Suck my balls otherwise.
Fuck you!
And now height. As you've seen in the height, Ashita No Joes is allergic to information. Well, apparently Carlos is 5'7", which doesn't make sense as him and Joe are the same height. And according to sources, Joe is 5'7" to 5'11". So Carlos is basically 5'7" to 5'11". But Sawamura is also 5'7", so either they're the same height or Carlos has a height advantage. Though it doesn't really matter anyway, let's be honest. And here comes our verdict. It's very tough, but I think Carlos takes the decision after a grueling contest. Now allow me to explain. Sawamura's character in general will get him screwed. His temper and tendency for fouls will always get him point deductions. As you may recall, we're not talking about a -1, we're talking about a -2 point deduction, depending on its severity. And you must realize no matter which Carlos we use, anime or manga, they're pretty much identical. Carlos can be very subtle with his fouls, and when Carlos keeps slipping elbows into Sawamura, he's gonna snap and he's gonna lash out, and he will be caught. It's only a matter of time. Sawamura can be sly with his fouls, like when he kneed Mashiba in his face, but that was him winding Mashiba up. Carlos has probably elbowed him, throwing a right and knocking him down. Sawamura will not want to be subtle. As Mashiba would say,
I'm gonna slap you right in your penis.
Because this is the main thing that will screw Sawamura up against an opponent like Carlos. Carlos is the showman. He will perform and he will wind Sawamura up and watch him go. Even if Sawamura was better, which he isn't, he will screw himself over in the end. There are two other outcomes that isn't a decision for Carlos. It's a no contest where both men disregard the rules entirely, which did occur in the manga version, but Sawamura isn't like Joe at all, so there's no reason for Carlos to do all that. Sawamura is more likely to get disqualified than to win. But just because he loses by decision doesn't mean it isn't a close fight. So I'm to work under the assumption that these counters can knock Carlos down. When he gets up, this is where the super weapon comes into play, meaning Sawamura gets dominated instantly. Now, as we all know, the drawback from that is intense stamina loss from breaking the dimensions. However, Sawamura would need a lot of time to recover from that. Cumulative damage is something that will be too much for Sawamura, especially since his counters are useless against a punch you can't see. Sawamura puts up a really good challenge, but his opponent is naturally more gifted and skilled, and he would have been the world champion if the world champion wasn't a quivering
Penis.